Good morning. It's Wednesday, September 3rd, 2014. I'm Oded Grober, and this is your morning edition on I-24 News. We're starting today with yet another horrific murder by the Islamic State. The organization have released a video showing the perpetrated murder of U.S. journalist Steven Sotloff, who has been held hostage in Syria since August 2013. This comes only days after his mother pleaded with the group's leader to spare his life. Joining me in the studio this morning are Channel 2's Foreign Affairs editor Arad Nir. Good morning to you.
Good morning, Oded.
I-24 News senior Middle East analyst Ali Waqid. Good morning. And I-24 News diplomatic correspondent Tal Shalev. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
So before we start talking about this, let's watch an edited moment from the video released.
I am Steven Joel Sotloff. I'm sure you know exactly who I am by now and why I am appearing before you. And now, it is time for my message. Obama, your foreign policy of intervention in Iraq was supposed to be for the preservation of American lives and interests. So why is it that I'm having to pay the price of your interference with my life? Am I not an American citizen? You've spent billions of U.S. taxpayers' dollars, and we've lost thousands of our troops in our previous fighting against the Islamic State. So where's the American people's interests in reigniting this war? From what little I know about foreign policy, I remember a time when you could not win an election without promising to bring our troops back home from Iraq and from Afghanistan and to close down Guantanamo. Here you are now, Obama, nearing the end of your term and having achieved none of the above, and deceivingly marching us, the American people, into a blazing fire.
Ali, let's begin with you. The authenticity of this video has not yet been proven, but there isn't really reason to believe that it's not authentic, is there?
Yeah, there is not a reason to believe that this is not authentic. This is a proof that no matter what you what pressure you put over the Islamic State, this is part of their war machine. This is not part. At the beginning, it was maybe a message to the West, a message to the zones in Iraq and in Syria that were not yet taken into control by the Islamic State. But we see that this kind of decapitulation, this kind of slaughtering people, is part of their war machine, is one more tool with the Kalashnikov, with the F-16 and other arms that the Islamic State have. And people think that this is maybe related to the fact that in the last weeks, because of the American intervention, they are withdrawing from more and more areas in Iraq. And I think that this is part of their propaganda, of their way to recruit some partisans all around the Arab and Islamic world, and in Europe and in the West also. Right. And the Islamic states show that your pressure is not giving any price. We will keep fighting you. And the question is, tomorrow there is the NATO conference. The question is whether the West will adopt a clear strategy. Obama had admitted last week that he has no clear strategy vis-a-vis the Islamic State, whether they are going to adopt a strategy to stop these people or to target them wherever it is possible at a tactical level and not as a strategic policy. We should remember one more thing, that these people that the West will try to stop are financed. Some of their operations are orchestrated by some who are called as allies of the West. Some sheikhs of the Saudi Arabia are accused directly of financing them. Qatar had tremendous, great positive relations with the Islamic State. What are NATO going to do on this issue, on this level? So I think that there is some hypocrisy in the attitude of the West when they present the Islamic State as the biggest danger over Earth right now, and on the other hand, working and coordinating with some people who are flirting with these guys of the Islamic State.
Right. So that's actually a good point to raise with Arad.
With your permission, Oded, I'd like to refer to the authenticity question. This video was edited. Now, there's no reason to doubt that they did what they claim they did, because they do on a daily basis the most horrific things. These people, some would call them these beasts. Nonetheless, they did want us to doubt I watched it carefully. There are some points, it's being cut. We don't see it in one shot, as we say professionally. It was cut on several points, and there are some legitimate question marks that can be reasoned regarding this video, and this is why I believe the American authorities are working on it on this very moment in order to prove the authenticity, but they wanted us to doubt it. Those who edited it left some question marks open, and maybe this is part of this cruel warfare that they are using.
Such as, what do you think could be behind it? Why are they leaving some question marks there?
You know, I wouldn't want to go into graphic details here in this time of the morning, but it was edited.
Right.
It was edited, and there are no clear cuts all over it, or professionally speaking, you know, cinematography speaking, there are some very clear cuts that we have to really check and go into in order to find out what is going on in this video. And again, in an exclamation mark, I say, well, these people do not hesitate to do whatever's on them, on a sick mind. So there's no reason to doubt it, but still they want us to doubt it.
I see. Experts do try to find the location that it was shot in, and try to see who the people involved were. It could be that those edits that you mentioned are a way to make it harder on the experts to locate it.
No doubt. This is part of this, I can't even call it propaganda machine, but this is part of the aim to draw fear and frustration amongst the Western nations.
Right. Now, in the video, he turns to Obama, talks to them. What responses did we see from the U.S.?
Well, meanwhile, they're appalled, they're devastated, they cannot find any words to describe their disgrace regarding what's happening.
What do you think might happen?
They're still waiting for strategy. You know, Obama said a few days ago that he does not have a strategy yet, and I think it's about time to form a strategy, since this is not the biggest threat on earth to the Western civilization. You know, this is a bunch of 10, 20, 30,000 warriors who have no sophisticated weapons. They've got sophisticated mind. They know how to use modern media warfare. They know how to use the internet. They know how to use the most sophisticated editing programs. And this is what they do. And they seed fear and frustration in the West. Having said that, we must remember that there are many, many Westerners that are fighting amongst them, as this John that we've seen here, but he's not the only one. Some claim 2,500, some claim even double this figure. The biggest fear at this moment is that or the biggest threat is not what they are doing in Iraq or in Syria, because this can be contained should there be a coalition. The biggest fear is what will happen when they go back to the countries, to their Western countries, and wait for order to act there.
Recently, we've seen Prime Minister Cameron released a whole plan to fight that threat. Yes, Ali?
I'm afraid it is a little bit too late, the Western attitude now to try to look for a policy to face those people. I think yesterday the Americans were proud to announce to the world that they targeted the convoy of the Abu Zubayr, the leader of Al-Shabaab, another Al-Qaeda affiliated group in Somalia this time. And in my opinion, the fact that they succeeded to target the convoy, and the question is whether the Abu Zubayr was killed or not, is secondary. It proves that the American, when they want to have the precious information, the very concrete information that allow them to attack, they can reach it. And the question is why for them it is enough to have this very precise information and to attack, and not to have a strategy to face the Al-Shabaab, to face Boko Haram, to face the Islamic State. And now when we see that on the social media there are talks between the Islamic State and between some groups affiliated to Taliban in Afghanistan for the beginning of a collaboration between these two big players, it can turn the world really a worse place if Taliban on one hand and the Islamic State start to collaborate. On the other hand, in Syria, Al-Nusra Front, that was recognized by Ayman al-Zawahiri, the leader of Al-Qaeda, as its representative in Syria, and not the Islamic State, are now understanding that the Islamic State is the more sexiest player in the region of the Jihadiyya Salafiyya elements and groups, and are calling on reconciliation with the Islamic State, which proved that in order to face this may be beginning of a turn point in the Western attitude. Also, these people are not indifferent and try to reorganize themselves to reform coalitions and alliances in order to face a change in the Western policy.
Yeah, which maybe shows that if the U.S. doesn't deal with it within a reasonable time frame, they will have a bigger problem on their hands.
It's not only the U.S., it's the whole freedom-seeking nations. And I'm not saying Western nations as such, because they are a big threat to Russia, and they are a big threat to Iran, and eventually they are a big threat to any nation in this world.
Do you think the U.S. will present a plan to deal with them?
The U.S. will have to present or to form a plan. I don't know if the U.S. will be the one to present it, but it will be the one to form or to take part in a plan. And this kind of plan has to be has to have two tracks. One track is to face the warriors or the warlords that are in Iraq at the moment, Iraq, Syria, and this region, and also, as Ali mentioned, all the Jihadiyya Salafiyya branches in other places in the world, not only in Iran and Iraq. The second phase of it, the second track, should be to make sure that they cannot come back to the original homes and draw destruction over there.
Of course.
Doing this will entail some limitations on human freedoms that the West cherishes so much.
Liberties.
And civil liberties, definitely. And once they do this, it will be a success for this Jihadiyya Salafiyya. So it's a lose-lose situation, but at least we have, or we, the Western, the freedom-seeking people, we have to choose a track that would limit them at least for a secluded or a certain defined time frame.
We'll have to choose the lesser evil. Thank you. Thank you. US and UK government spoke out yesterday in particularly strong language against the recent appropriation of Palestinian land by Israel. Nearly 1,000 acres near Beit Lechem have been seized in what Minister Naftali Bennett described as an appropriate Zionist response to the recent murder of the 3 youths. To further discuss this, still with me in the studio, Channel 2's Foreign Affairs editor Arad Nir, Ali Waked from I-24 News, and Tal Shalev. Hopefully we'll hear more from you, Tal, as well. Let's begin with you, actually, on this matter. You've prepared a story. Let's watch it. Come back.
If anyone was hoping that the aftermath of Operation Protective Edge would bring new promise to the Israeli-Palestinian peace process, maybe they should wait with the confetti. While Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas is promoting a unilateral diplomatic plan, the Israeli government is back to settlement expansion, and the prospects of constructive dialogue look slim. Earlier this week, Israel announced a massive land appropriation of almost 1,000 acres in the West Bank area of Gush Etzion, near Bethlehem. The plan was decided upon after the June killing of 3 Israeli teenagers in the same area, and creates a settlement continuity between Gush Etzion and Jerusalem. Peace activists and Palestinians have decried the decision as the largest land grab in 3 decades and have been joined by expected international condemnations. Counterproductive, ill-judged, alarming. The world is urging Netanyahu to reverse the decision.
We just completed a military operation. The international community is still sensitive, and even before that, it was hard to get their support. Why was it so important to cause another crisis with the Americans and the international community?
While right-wing Israeli politicians lauded the move as, quote, an appropriate Zionist response to terror, Netanyahu's left-wing cabinet ministers are less content. once again the deep rift within Netanyahu's government on the Palestinian issue has been exposed. Left-wing ministers are pushing to renew talks with Abbas, but are a minority in the cabinet. Netanyahu himself, who repeatedly outlined a, quote, new diplomatic horizon as a result of the war in Gaza, is sticking to a more hawkish approach and does not seem to be planning any significant diplomatic initiative.
Our policy is to focus on settlement blocks that will stay under Israeli sovereignty in any future agreement.
Meanwhile, Abbas too is taking steps and is promoting his unilateral plan, calling to lay down a firm timetable for an Israeli withdrawal from the West Bank. So for the time being, the post-Gaza war period hasn't brought any good news, but rather another diplomatic confrontation.
Tal, let's turn to you. What's the latest on this?
Well, overnight, the U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry did call Netanyahu. Also, the main topic of the discussion was this massive land appropriation that Israel announced earlier this week. Kerry, like other international leaders, are not very satisfied with this move. It's perceived as a unilateral move, and we can expect that it was not an easy conversation, but maybe it was also important for Netanyahu to have this conversation before the meeting, a very crucial meeting today between Kerry and the two Palestinian chief negotiators, Saib Arigat and Manshi Faraj, that are coming to Washington to present this very frightening, from Israel's point of view, diplomatic plan that Abbas has been promoting and will be more fueling up in the upcoming days. And that was probably also the focus of the phone call. But all in all, this move actually, it was a clear political move. Netanyahu was under a lot of pressure from the right-wing base, his political base, specifically after the murder of the three teenagers. But this has been an ongoing pressure. Netanyahu did freeze actually some of the settlement construction plans, but in any case, he thought that this would be something that could maybe take off some of the right-wing pressure. And when he looks at the polls, many of the polls for Netanyahu are not very positive at the moment. Naftali Bennett, leader of the Jewish Home, is growing. His popularity is growing amongst this right-wing base, and Netanyahu felt like he had to do something to appease them. But in any case, the prospects of this are not positive for, as we said in the report, they're not positive for any renewal of peace talks. Yesterday, also, Netanyahu was quoted on Channel 2 as if he told the members of the Foreign Affairs and Defense Committee that he will not release prisoners for a Palestinian president.
As Abbas is expecting.
As Abbas is demanding. We're talking about, this also includes a fourth batch of the 104 Palestinian prisoners that Israel already committed to release in the previous round of negotiations. So it doesn't seem that we're going to have any peace summits upcoming in the upcoming days. And U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry, if he was thinking to come to the region while he's treating ISIS, I think maybe that idea is off the table at the moment.
I see. Alad, other than condemning the move, what does the world plan to do?
There's no understanding. Okay, you can't pick anyone that understands that move. See, I spoke to various senior diplomats positioned in Israel yesterday and the day before, and they were puzzled, misunderstanding, deplored.
They did not think it's an appropriate Zionist response?
They did not think it at all.
I'm shocked.
They could not really understand what went through the government's mind, because they are under the impression that the Israelis do not understand the harsh international situation that they are in now after the end of the fighting in Gaza. The world does not praise Israel for what happened in Gaza for those 50 days, and the world demands answers. And this is not an answer. This is further destruction, if you want, of the trust between Israel and its allies.
Yeah. Palestinian street, how is the street responding to this move?
The street was not surprised. It was not the first time that the Israelis decide to enlarge buildings in the settlements to confiscate lands. But Oded, Netanyahu was very proud during the 50 days fighting to talk about the new regional coalition. So now we are going to wait until Sunday, Monday, the Arab League, to see how did collapse this regional coalition that Netanyahu was very proud of. Saudi Arabia will lead the condemnation against Netanyahu's decision to confiscate these lands in the region of Bethlehem. And this is a huge support to the Palestinian delegation that will go to the United States to present the Abu Mazen plan. Already there are some debates between the State Department, as I understand from my Palestinian sources, between the State Department and the White House about what should be the American position vis-a-vis this plan of President Abbas. And such steps of Netanyahu will intimidate those who in the American administration were still hesitating in to support or not to support this plan. Unilateral steps meet unilateral steps by the other side. This is what the Palestinians think, that this can leverage their efforts for more recognition in their plan, and the United States will be the president of the Security Council in September, actually. And I see very hard the United States putting its veto over a Palestinian initiative to bring their initiative to the Security Council.
I don't think the United States will be hurrying so fast to adopt the Palestinian resolution. There's still the administration still has some political constraints by adopting in Congress and all kinds of and the constituents in adopting and really supporting the Palestinian initiative. But it could be a quiet support. Maybe they could reach an understanding.
Veto it, that by itself would be a change in the.
I don't think we'll reach. It's hard to predict, but I don't think we'll reach a point in which the U.S. will have to veto it. It will not put itself in that kind of situation. It will convince a Palestinian. If we get to that point, it will. The Americans, I predict, will convince the Palestinians to move the resolution to the General Assembly, where it will pass with a very vast majority. Mm-hmm. But the Americans will not have to vote, put a veto. But I think something that could be interested in the upcoming weeks and months and interesting to emerge is that inside Netanyahu's cabinet and inside Netanyahu's government, he has basically two fig leaves for the international community, Tzipi Livni and Yair Lapid. And both of them have, especially Livni, but Lapid is also trying to now build himself and portray himself as a peace promoter or two-state solution promoter. Both of them, the reason for their existence, one of the reasons for their existence in Netanyahu's government is the fact that there are negotiations with the Palestinians, that there's a track of dialogue. And that is how... That is how Livni justified her presence in the government in the past 9 months of negotiations. Right. After the negotiations broke down, she was in some kind of identity crisis. Luckily, maybe
which hasn't
for
been
Livni,
resolved completely.
Exactly. In Livni's case, maybe luckily for her, she had the abduction and the operation that created a different situation in which she could still justify her presence in the government. But now the times go by, and again, Netanyahu's reluctance to have any real significant concessions, to give any real significant concessions to the Palestinians, does expose her to a very big political danger. And both Livni and Lapid will have to make decisions in the upcoming weeks. And that is something, actually, that the Americans are hoping for. The Americans actually would like the government in Israel to fall or change over exactly the question of the two-state solution, and that is one of the outcomes that the Americans will be happy to see.
Yeah. The problem is that within the Israeli public opinion, or the Jewish public opinion in Israel, no one looks for the two-state solution, definitely not after this Gaza war that we've been through. And mind you, I think that we have to bring into the argument something quite important that we tend to forget, because the Israelis have short memory. We are 1 week into this temporary 1-month ceasefire. By the end of this month, negotiations have to start in Cairo. Netanyahu already said that he's not going to send his team to Cairo anymore. He's not going to suggest any concessions to Hamas in Gaza. This is what he says out loud. The question is whether Hamas is deterred enough to accept Netanyahu's term, because if they are not, maybe in 3 weeks' time we are going to see another escalation in the southern border of Israel, and then Netanyahu may start again with this political horizon, etc., etc.
What sort of alternative has Netanyahu presented, if any?
None. Netanyahu hasn't presented any alternative, and at the moment there was a very fierce debate. Netanyahu has, we have to say, the people that are calling for a diplomatic initiative, Tzipi Livni and Yair Lapid, they're a minority inside the Israeli cabinet. They might even be, as Arad said, they're a minority inside the Israeli public. Even though I think that after the dust of war will sink, I do think that the Israelis will get back maybe to the support ratings we saw to the two-state solution that we've been seeing in the past few years, of a majority supporting the two-state solution. I think that for the average Israeli, the conflict in Gaza maybe did sharpen the image of the fact that there is a moderate force on the Palestinian side, that is the one that we should be speaking for. But again, these are things that we still are yet to see.
Yes.
Because of the polls, Tal talked about the polls in Israel. There are polls among the Palestinians, and polls show that the Palestinians understand that you need tough position vis-a-vis Israel in order to have some concessions. We saw yesterday unreasonable results in a Palestinian poll that showed that Ismail Haniyeh is enjoying a double bigger support than President Abbas, 60 versus 30% to Abbas, which means that the Palestinian public opinion is determined to change the situation, whether in relaunching maybe a new confrontation, military confrontation in the West Bank, or via the table of negotiations. As far as the Palestinians understand, there is no serious will of the Israelis to get back to the table with a clear framework and especially with a clear schedule. The fight will be over the schedule. The fight will be Abu Mazen understood that the Israelis want to manage the conflict and not to find a solution to the conflict. This is why the Palestinians, this time without a timetable, a clear timetable, without a clear schedule, they will not go to this round of negotiations.
Ali Waked, Tal Shalev, and Arad Nir, thank you all.
Thank you.
We're going to take a short break, but after the break, what lies ahead for the Israel-Turkey relations after the elections in Turkey? Thank you for staying with us. It's time to say hello and good morning to Anthony Grant, who joins us daily to discuss the news you missed while scanning the headlines. Good morning to you.
Good morning to you, Oded.
How are you?
Fine, how are you?
I'm all right, considering.
Yeah.
What do you have for us today?
I want to quickly follow up on a story which we talked about actually a couple of days ago, dealing with telephones in Iran. And the New York Times reports here that Iran has unfettered cell phones and the pictures start flowing. So this is about Hassan Rouhani, president, sort of winning a little victory over hardliners who didn't want him to expand the country's 3G and 4G licenses, but actually they have. So this is...
and are they open for use? Can you actually go online? Because in the past, we've seen Iran limit the access to internet quite substantially.
These limitations are still there, but less. I mean, this is kind of a big deal in terms of access to more things on the internet, even if it's not necessarily, say, Twitter per se, but the workaround on that front will be easier, and sort of the floodgates seem to be open, at least on the telecom front. So that's
certainly good news.
Yeah, so that's going to be interesting to see what people are going to try to tweet and all that sort of thing in the days ahead in Tehran. Itar TASS, of course, a Russian press agency, is one of the first sources to say that Russia is ready to make public this now infamous Putin-Barroso conversation. This is the conversation in which Putin and the European Commission President Jose Barroso, when Putin said that he could apparently take Kiev in 2 weeks if he wanted to. So they're trying to, the Russians are trying to, I guess you could say, downplay the import of that, taken out of context, all that sort of thing. And I guess they have the transcript because in Russia they know how to listen to things.
He was joking. He was joking. It was part of the
just
joke.
Humor, diplomatic humor. Yeah, maybe.
It became a habit by the Russians, to play this back and forth. We can take Ukraine, we cannot take Ukraine. We want to take Ukraine, we don't want to take Ukraine.
They're waiting for someone to challenge them.
And they keep it in the headlines. If that's one of the goals, they seem to be winning that battle.
The orchestra is playing.
Exactly. Anyway, the orchestra is also playing over in Iraq. The Daily Beast reported yesterday a headline with a question, which posited, well, are American troops already fighting in Iraq? And of course, we know that Obama has ordered 350 military personnel to Iraq to protect some American interests. But this article says that Kurdish intelligence people corroborated what the journalists asking this question about, are the troops already on the ground? And apparently this Kurdish higher up said German and American forces have been on the ground, and they were helping to support them in an attack on Monday on IS positions in the crossroads town of Zumar. So the Pentagon denied that in this article from yesterday. So chances are, knowing American history a little bit, there are some American troops of some kind on the ground there. But of course, it's a very politically freighted issue. So again,
so whether they're described as military personnel or experts or soldiers, that's really the whole question.
Yeah, I mean,
it's like the question whether there are Russian troops in the Ukraine.
Yeah, it's a kind of a nomenclature issue, which works when we're dealing with small quantities of alleged troops, that sort of thing. But time will tell on that front.
Yes.
Publico.
It won't be the first time.
It won't be the first time, and not the last. Portugal made a big story in Publico, which is a big paper in Lisbon, about 12 Portuguese origin people are jihadists fighting in Syria and Iraq. So it's not just wayward British and Americans, but also people of Portuguese extraction are finding their way into the trenches of the so-called
seems like all of
state.
Europe is affected.
All of Europe, also New Zealanders, Australians,
really.
Russians.
It's a contagion,
You name
and
it.
you would think Portugal would be just kind of doing its nice Portuguese thing,
Hanging out on the beach.
Well, so
Finnish, Danish, Norwegian, Swedish.
People
all
will
over.
travel no matter how far.
All the down and outs.
yeah. So anyway.
This is just 12 for now, not the 500 that we
Yeah,
heard in,
small
in
number,
Britain
but
and
alarming.
Belgium.
And Portugal's a small country, so 12 people
Small
there.
country with a small Muslim community, so relatively
right,
it's
right.
quite a big number.
Still surprising, though.
Yes,
It'll
no
keep
doubt.
surprising us. I'm
It will,
afraid, for
hopefully
quite a
not
while.
always in bad ways. Here's something that's not a big surprise. South China Morning Post, I've been following this story a lot too, has this headline about Beijing warning the United Kingdom to drop its Hong Kong inquiry. This, of course, is because of recently Beijing is basically saying that we're in charge of the electoral process in Hong Kong, but Hong Kong was supposed to have a little bit of a special status there in terms of how it's administering itself. And apparently the head of a British parliamentary inquiry into Hong Kong has said that China may have appeared to have breached the terms of the Sino-British Joint Declaration when it ruled out the possibility of genuine democracy in the city. So this is Beijing starting to flex its muscle, and there's tensions mounting in that very vibrant
They
city.
waited for a while, and little by little, I think they're going at it.
Yeah, so that's something to watch in the Chinese and British press. There was a story on Monday in The Independent, kind of a touchy subject, a British paper, which has now been picked up by Fars, the Iranian news agency.
Yes.
And the headlines are about the same. Saudis considering demolishing Prophet Muhammad tomb. This is a big deal in terms of Muslim tensions because it could risk inflaming them. What they're talking about is that a leading Saudi academic has put forward a proposal which would allow for the relocating of the remains of the Prophet Muhammad into an anonymous grave. The reason is that there's a division, of course, in Shiite and Sunni ideology, and some strict interpreters of the Saudi Wahhabi faith believe that idolatry is something that is going on in the sort of chambers around the Prophet's tomb. And because it's sort of around it, it's like peripheral, but to Shias, it's not. It's extremely important.
It's close enough.
Exactly. And we're talking about the city of Medina, which is the second holiest city in Islam, and Saudi Arabia is the custodian of these Islamic shrines. But a lot of countries draw legitimacy, like the Islamic Republic of Iran, from these holy sources. So it's a very hot button issue, and not surprisingly, the Iranian news agency was very quick to pick up on this story.
Of course.
So one to watch.
Yeah, while I'm not an expert on the matter, I'm sure that many will have issues.
A lot
what
of thoughts to weigh in on that. Nothing. It's just talk at this point. Also, a hot talker is the mayor of London, Boris Johnson. He of the infamously blonde, crazy haircut. He is upset because his plans to sort of put a new airport on the so-called Boris Island in the Thames have been pretty much flatly rejected, and he's not happy about that because he thinks it's a great idea. In terms of revitalizing the airport system in London, which of course is a vital European travel hub. But I guess putting an airport in the middle of the Thames didn't seem like the most logical idea to some British authorities. So
time will tell.
Time will tell.
Thank you so much, Tony.
Thank you.
We now turn our gaze over to Turkey. The Turkish Foreign Ministry has filed complaints with U.S. officials over electronic spying claims. This comes only 2 weeks after Ankara summoned the German ambassador for similar reasons. Turkey demands the U.S. stop spying on Turkey at once if the claims are true. Arad Neil from Channel 2 is still with us. How is this, if I may focus on Israel for a second, how will this affect, if in any way, Israeli-Turkish relations?
Well, this has got no influence on Israeli-Turkish relations at all. Regarding Israel-Turkish relations, I suggest you not to hold your breath. Nothing is going to change in the very near future, and not only that, I can say in the foreseeable future. You know, things happen in the world. In the previous section of your program, we dealt with ISIS. So this is a mutual concern of Israel and Turkey, a reason to cooperate, but there is no cooperation whatsoever between the two countries regarding intelligence, diplomacy, and the regional affairs. There's lots of cooperation regarding the economic facet of things. Economy between the trade between the two countries is flourishing, and it is continuing to flourish. And these are the expectations is that it will still continue and still rise. Things have allegedly changed in Turkey last week. Erdogan was inaugurated as the president.
No longer prime minister.
No longer prime minister. Became officially the most influential and strongest figure in Turkish modern history since Mustafa Kemal Atatürk, the founder of the Republic of Turkey. And nonetheless, he wants to take Turkey to a total different direction than Mustafa Kemal Atatürk.
He does speak about the new Turkey that he wants to build. What is this new Turkey?
Well, this new Turkey is very different to the Kemalist Turkey, as we used to call it. Erdogan's new Turkey is prosperous, extremely prosperous Turkey regarding economical figures. Very with lots of regional influence. Now Turkey is graded the 16th economy in the world. His aim to bring the new Turkey in 9 years to be one of the 10 leading economies in the world. This will be his new Turkey. But on the other hand, his new Turkey would be more Islamist, less free, less westernized, even though yesterday they claimed that they are going to put the train into the European Union in full speed. But again, don't hold your breath on that. The fact that he chose Ahmet Davutoğlu as his prime minister means that things are not going to change in Turkey. Ahmet Davutoğlu is Erdogan's right hand. He doesn't have a political grassroots of his own. He doesn't have political ground. He needs Erdogan in order to carry on his political career. We are expecting another set of elections in Turkey next year. These will be the parliamentary elections. And all this gathered to the fact that what there was with Erdogan, there will be in the very future. Erdogan will he will direct whatever is going on in Turkey. Davutoglu will obey,
there.
and no surprise. Totally so. No surprises are expected.
Now, if we do go back to the question of spying in the region, is this for show? I mean, does Turkey really think that no spying is going on?
Well, this is this is things that have to be done. Reports about spying came out of the Edward Snowden's documents that were
still giving,
and they were revealed last week. The original reaction of Erdogan was, I mean, we don't care. Countries do things like that. The only question is what they do with this. Now, he knows what he's talking about. We should hope so, but he does. Because, again, it has two facets. On the one hand, the NSA and the CIA are spying for years over Turkey, but on the other hand, they are spying in Turkey for Turkey,
right.
Meaning they were looking after they were following the PKK, the Kurdish
and sharing their information.
And sharing the information, giving information to the Turkish military forces.
Right.
So eventually, things like this happen. We've seen the Americans were spying on the Brits, and they were spying on the Germans, and they were spying on Turkey, which is the largest, or at least was the largest ally with regards to military and military might and territory in the Mediterranean basin. Nonetheless, they have to do something.
Right.
They cannot just let go. They cannot just accept it. So this was calling of the American chargé d'affaires in Ankara to the summon that they sent to the chargé d'affaires in Ankara to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. This was a matter of protocol. They have to say something. They did say it, and that's what it was. What would bother me more regarding the American-Turkish relations would be the fact that this same chargé d'affaires was the same one that was sent by President Obama to represent him in the inauguration ceremony of President Erdogan.
I see.
The Americans and the Turks are trying to downplay this as well. Again, matter of procedure. The new ambassador was not authorized yet in Congress, was not approved by Congress yet. So, the hearing is not finished. So he is the most high-ranking representative of the United States in Ankara, and he was the one that was expected by the protocol to represent Obama there. Nonetheless, Obama could have sent a minister, one of his cabinet members, in order to pay more respect. I think, even though there are big denials regarding it, but we cannot hide the fact that there was a message in this very same bottle.
We'll keep following that, of course. Thank you so much, Arad.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tony, as well. Coming up next, we'll hear why Malaysia Airlines is about to cut its workforce and get a $2 billion bailout. But first, some more of this morning's headlines. Welcome back. It's still Wednesday, September 3rd, 2014. This is still the Morning Edition. I'm still Oded Grober. Thank you so much for staying with us. Moving on to our next topic. Malaysia Airlines made the headlines this year for all the wrong reasons. 2 aircraft disasters. The still unresolved disappearance of Flight 370 over the southern Indian Ocean and the downing of Flight 17 over eastern Ukraine in July. Now we hear they will cut about 30% of its workforce. Tell us more about it. I'm joined in the studio, of course, by Anthony Grant, but mostly by Daniel Roth for this matter.
Morning.
Good morning to you, Daniel. You have a story for us on this, so let's watch that and come back to you.
This year, Malaysia Airlines has become synonymous with tragedy. Flight MH370 went missing in early March with no trace found, and Flight MH17 was shot over eastern Ukraine in mid-July. As well, Yahoo reports that an Australian woman was sexually assaulted by a flight attendant on a Paris-bound flight, calling into question the company's operations on a multitude of levels. Now Malaysia Airlines is feeling the effects with their 6th straight quarterly loss, according to AFP. Routes are set to be cut and 6,000 employees are being laid off. The announcement was made by the State Investment Fund, which had majority ownership already and bought the remaining shares to delist the company as it works to resuscitate it.
Estimation of a workforce of approximately 14,000 represents a net reduction of 6,000 staff, or a net reduction of 30% from the approximately 20,000 current staff in Ulco.
Reuters reports that the company will get a new CEO by the end of the year, but the old and new chiefs will overlap until July of 2015. The new controlling stakeholders will pour $1.9 billion into the airline with the aim to return it to profitability in the next 3 years. They have their work cut out for them.
A multitude of problems, from a very outdated fleet type and also product offering. Apart from that, they also have an overbloated workforce in terms of size.
But as they stare down these major costs, some workers wonder if these moves may cause further problems.
With my current responsibilities, I'm not sure how much more I can stretch. I will do what I can, but I have to prioritize. And I'm very worried about the current situation, but hoping for the best.
The only thing that is clear from Malaysia Airlines as they work to stem the tide of scandal and tragedy is that they have a long way to climb.
So, Dan, not a good year for Malaysia Airlines.
Understatement of the year.
The century. Yeah.
It's,
what's happening there?
They're doing terribly, both because of bad luck and because of bad management. You can see the bad luck in the fact that they lost a plane over the Indian Ocean and then had another plane shot down over eastern Ukraine. That's the bad luck. The bad management is somehow creating a culture where sexual assault became a reality on one of their flights heading to Paris. So between the 2 tragedies and a scandal, you're seeing both bad luck and terrible, terrible management. That's leading to the decision that they're cutting 30% of their workforce. There's 20,000 people who work for Malaysia Airlines, 30%, about 6,000 people. That's the decision that they're making now that they've been taken over. The entire control of the company has been taken over by a state-owned investment fund, which essentially, during the video, as Anthony explained, taxpayers are paying for it.
Right.
So the way they're moving forward is that they're putting it in the state's hands, and they're cutting the workforce enormously.
And are people now afraid to travel with Malaysia Airlines? I mean,
yeah,
can't blame them really, but is there a real reason for it?
Well, I think first of all, we humans are a superstitious bunch. I think when you see two planes downed in less than half a year, you start to think maybe I'm not going to take this airline. You see prices drop. You see lines empty out.
Although statistically, I'd say it's the safest airline in the world this year. With 2 planes lost in the previous year, odds are this year will be fine.
Yeah, lightning doesn't strike twice, they say. But if it strikes twice, then you say lightning doesn't strike 3 times.
Yeah. Any idea of where they might be heading? If there's a brighter future ahead, what do you think?
Look, I think that the last soundbite in the video really speaks volumes. The workers are stretched thin, and they're only going to be stretched more thin. I think the smart thing that they're doing is cutting routes as they cut workforce, because you simply cannot run all the routes that you're used to if you're cutting a third of your workforce.
Of course.
If they can successfully bounce back, and again, if they can bounce back on the luck side, meaning the perception side, that we perceive them as safe again, but if also they need to bounce back on the management side and deal with whatever sick culture is going on in that airline that allowed for a terrible situation to have for that woman.
Not sure which one is easier done there.
Absolutely.
Where are other airlines positioned to compare to Malaysia Airlines? Are any?
Well, look, the entire industry changed almost 15 years ago after 9/11. Prices shot up after going down for a few weeks. The entire industry is kind of beholden to the security industry, and the entire industry has been slowed down by the rising of prices and the kind of over security culture. You know, when you arrive in the U.S., your shoes come off, your liquids come out, jackets and belts and everything. Why? Because one time one guy thought I'm going to hide something in my shoes, and so now everyone takes their shoes off, which means that the industry, the security industry, which again the airline industry is beholden to, is very reactive. It's not very proactive, which means that the airline industry is reacting to external stimuli and not in the last decade or so hasn't been taking the reins, hasn't been looking forward to the next big steps in aviation, to the next big steps in civil aviation, I should say.
Well, time will tell on this matter as well. Let's move now to Tony, who's coming here. Yeah? Let's, please. You're here to tell us what's trending on the web.
Completely different note.
Completely different note. What, Malaysia Airlines?
Can leave aviation and the TSA behind, and the utter lack of manners of the American aviation authorities when you go to airports. It's just awful. But we're going to talk about vacations actually in just a second.
Well,
and
we're going to have to go through.
Does tie in with that.
Yeah.
But first, on a high culture note, because I know you're a cultural man.
I am.
The Queen of England.
In the news, in the top of culture.
I mean, you just don't get any more cultural than her, right? Well,
without a doubt.
She has basically come out and said, apparently, that she is not very fond of selfies. Now, I think that I know, well, because I was wondering what she thought. I was wondering her thoughts on this. I'm sure you were too.
No, I mean it's hard words, no question about it. But I'd much rather hear that than start getting loads of selfies of the Queen. I'm not sure that would be.
She's an avid photo bomber. Like, she shows up in a lot of pictures in the background with her lovely hats. But apparently, she confided to the American ambassador when he presented his credentials recently that she misses eye contact. And when she goes into a crowded room and she sees, the backs of all these cell phones, it's not very majestic, shall we say, not very regal. So
Aren't people usually come to her this way, in which there isn't much of an eye contact there either?
Well, I guess she misses the old days when people were just fixed on her and she was looking above them, and
Well, she needs to get on Twitter. It's as simple as that.
Well, Pope Francis is an avid tweeter.
Yeah, I mean, she'll have loads of followers, I'm sure.
Speaking of Twitter, on a sadder note, we know that after Robin Williams' untimely demise, there was a Twitter controversy with his daughter, Zelda, because she actually very publicly quit Twitter because of some jokesters and pranksters that were saying not nice things in very trying circumstances for the family. But now she's back on Twitter. And she says that she shouldn't, nobody should be bullied or silenced, et cetera, et cetera. And it just begs the question, should she have made her grief so public? Because did she expose herself to all of this? I don't know. I mean,
it's a valid question.
Yeah. It's a question for the Queen of England maybe to resolve, because she might have thoughts on what to tweet or what not to tweet. And that brings us back to summer vacation. talked about. It's a little bit of autumn in the air.
Yes.
Summer, it's out there
Almost
somewhere.
gone.
So The Guardian, a very prestigious newspaper in the UK, asks us, did you have a crap holiday? Yes.
Did you?
And it's in
You just came back from holiday.
that was a working weekend. What?
It's the paper of note.
It is. There has stirred some controversy with that headline, but they basically have invited readers to send in their horror stories, and there's a lot of pressure when you come back from wherever in September. Everyone's trying to say, "Oh, I had the most amazing time." What if you didn't?
Yeah.
So
I'm sure some passengers from Malaysia Airlines have a few stories to tell.
I think anyone who was passing through the TSA in Newark, New Jersey, sure got their vacation off to a sour note or ended it on one. I don't know, but who had a hot vacation
Who's
and is
that?
as we speak, Bar Raffaele.
Oh, I was
The Greek-
I was thinking you, but
I was mostly shuffling suitcases around airport terminals, but
Who
Bar
are you?
Raffaele has been spotted in Mykonos heating things up with her boyfriend, businessman Adi Ezra.
Okay. Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
There she is, looking very Mykonos-y. Yeah. An interesting choice for Mykonos. I mean, she could go anywhere, right? Mykonos is a little bit cliched, wouldn't you say, as
You
an
think?
island destination? I mean, there's Crete, there's Mallorca, there's
She's just another
Manhattan.
gal, She's just one of the gals. She likes to go to Mykonos like any Israeli, for that matter.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, last time I was there, it was pretty nice.
Did you go with Bar?
I'm afraid not.
Okay, well, on the other side of the Mediterranean, Paris Hilton, can't forget about her, has covered herself in mud on an island off the coast of Ibiza called Formentera. She's been doing her DJ gigs. She's a hard-working lady. Let's give her credit where it's due. And Formentera is a lot of celebrities tend to go there in the late summer as summer's last shout. And I guess you can do sort of a Dead Sea-esque mud bath
Yeah,
there.
she should come to the Dead Sea, do it right.
Yeah, I mean, she could spin her DJ thing in the clubs of Tel Aviv, right?
Of course, she'll be welcome. I don't know if we can pay the prices that she demands for showing up at parties, but we'll try to.
Well, I mean,
valid question.
It's a valid question. I'm sure she's not bad. I mean, how complicated? I shouldn't say that. No, DJing
No,
is passion. I'm not
no,
going to
you
go there.
should not.
Let me say this: she can't be any Ofer Nissim. I
Wow.
don't think she can
Wow.
remix a Madonna track like Ofer could. But anyway, but she has a new song out, and she's, that's nice. The song is not bad, actually. Forgot what it's called. You Make Me Come Alive. And you do make me come alive, Oded. So there it has been said, just like.
I'm blushing.
Do we have time for TMZ?
Of course, always time for
All right,
TMZ.
and cars. In automotive news, 50 Cent, he has not gone away.
Yeah.
Famous rapper, has bought a little Mercedes for his little kid.
Aw, that's cute.
A miniature Mercedes for his 2-year-old, and that sends a good sign.
I always loved those little cars. I always wanted one as a kid.
Yeah, I didn't know that they actually had them that small.
Oh yeah, they've had them for years and years. I guess I was just I should have been. What's his kid's name? Is it like a quarter?
25 cents.
Yeah.
Yep, exactly. Penny.
Which apparently can afford a nice little Mercedes.
Yeah, why not? Also in automotive news, the Moscow Auto Show, yes, there is one, was the place where BMW debuted its new AK-47 proof SUV. Yeah.
Perfect.
Very fitting.
Yes, you can.
That's what I need.
That's what
That's exactly what I need.
It's why not? I mean, show off to your friends, and your frenemies. Yeah, apparently you don't actually need it so much in Moscow because there have been fewer AK-47 type firings on people in Moscow than in the past, according to
good
the
news.
Wall Street Journal. But in other places around the world, say Iraq or who
It
knows
could come
where,
very handy.
having that Kevlar-proofed $300,000 vehicle would put
$300,000.
you
For all
in good
your
stead.
luxury bulletproof needs.
Exactly. Yeah.
I
and
have
it's-
many. You'll be surprised.
It looks great, and
I actually prefer to always be bulletproof.
Yes.
Why not?
Are you wearing-
why not? Really?
it's a way of dressing up yourself in it's not sort of
Safety
the fake
first.
armor that is clothes, but real armor. On a fashion note,
Yes.
Are you from New York?
I've visited.
Okay, then you look great because if you're from New York, you look terrible, according to fashionista Carolina Herrera.
Okay, she
Fashion
knows
Week
a
is
thing.
starting in September, and she has publicly said that New Yorkers have horrendous style.
I wonder where she hangs out when she's not in New York, because it's you know,
Yeah,
if it's Tel Aviv, that if it would have been Tel Aviv, I think she would have said otherwise.
I think Tel Aviv has great fashion because in Tel Aviv, people know how to dress with figure-flattering footwear and other garb. Whether it's Bar Raffaelli or the
check up
menfolk.
on that later, maybe Tony.
That's
will
another
bring us some
segment.
examples.
Okay.
Thank you, Tony. Thank you, Daniel, so much. And coming up next, still, Google Glass, an app that can read the emotions of everyone you talk to. We'll check that out. But first, let's hear some more of this morning's headlines. Thank you for staying with us, and good morning. It's 9:42 here in Tel Aviv. It's time to get sporty with the help of Jonathan Regev.
Morning.
The host of the Sports Magazine.
Yep.
How are you?
Not bad. Yourself?
I'm pretty good, doing some stretching.
As we all should, and I don't.
What are we going to talk about this morning?
The European transfer window ended on September 1st at midnight, and it was a crazy transfer window. Just look at the sums. There's 80 million euros for James Rodriguez, who moved in from Monaco to Real Madrid. But then Barcelona wanted to show they're bigger, they can do more, so they paid 81 million euros. Oh, what's a million euro here and there?
Yeah, at least it's not 80.1.
Exactly. It could be, you know. They never disclose the exact figures, but then there's 81 million euros for Luis Suarez, and then 75 million euros for Angel Di Maria, and everything, you know, always, somehow it is always dragged. There's 3 months to do those transfers. It is always dragged until the last hour
moment,
of the last day. That's a story. We'll talk about it a little more before. Let's see the story with Liz Barenbaum and Daniel Roth.
Let's.
The football transfer period officially lasts around 3 months, but somehow it always comes out to the last days or even the last hours for the player exchanges between clubs. At the end of January, as the winter transfer window closes, the planning begins for the summer transfer window. The team personnel must then assess their teams to see what they need for the upcoming season. The first major transfer of the summer was announced on May 23rd, but the official move of David Luiz from PSG to Chelsea was only confirmed in June with an agreement between the London club and the Brazilian defender. The Blues purchased the Brazilian defender for 25 million euro from Benfica in 2011 and was transferred to the Parisian club for 49.5 million on a 5-year deal. Despite the great investment, the president of his new club thinks it is money well spent.
I think David was very expensive. He's a great player. I tried to pay less, but that is the price, because there were a lot of big clubs who wanted to buy David, and I am very happy with his arrival at PSG.
The biggest obstacle in making the deal is always the player's salary. The amount varies depending on the footballer, if he is out of contract or not, and how many clubs are pursuing the player. During the summer transfer, Real Madrid announced the signing of Toni Kroos, the German midfielder and newly crowned World Cup winner, signed a 6-year contract with the European champions. The fee for this transfer was 25 million euro, and Kroos himself hopes to shine with his new club.
I won the Champions League last year with Bayern Munich. This year it's Real Madrid who won, and I hope, of course, my big goal is that we win together next year.
Another purchase for Real Madrid was young Colombian James Rodriguez, who was a scoring sensation at the World Cup. The 80 million transfer of Rodriguez is the second most expensive transfer this summer.
I feel good. This is just the beginning. I have to stay calm. I started only 11 days ago, and gradually I found my place in this team.
The final contract includes the salary, the amount of premiums, and sometimes some advantages like an apartment or a car provided by the club. And this year, Argentine international Angel Di Maria also made headlines. After 4 seasons with Real Madrid, he was traded to Manchester United for €75 million, the highest price ever paid by a Premier League team, and he knows exactly how big are the shoes he's filling.
When I was in Madrid, Cristiano Ronaldo had told me how the number 7 was important to him. He wanted me to wear the Manchester 7. The truth is that when I got to the club, I wanted it. So it's also nice to wear a shirt that such great players have worn.
Every hour is counted when the negotiations always get dragged to the last day of the transfer period. It happened again this time. The negotiations over Falcao have finally been completed on the last day of the transfer market, as he decided to join Manchester United. Monaco and the English club have come to an agreement for a loan fee of €12 million. Each season, the players are asking themselves the same question: should I move clubs or not? If transfers take place every 3 or 4 years, the change of life is nevertheless difficult, because beyond the prestige, the pressure is great for the players to be profitable, and that weight is constantly on their shoulders.
Unbelievable sums of money.
Exactly. I mean, we've spoken of 3 players: 81 million euros, 80 million euros, 75 million euros. Huge money. Now, in the past, we have seen such numbers, but perhaps once every summer. Gareth Bale last summer, the 100 million euro man, that created a lot of buzz. Players before that, like Cristiano Ronaldo, big players. But the fact that we're spending, teams are spending this so much money on a player like James Rodriguez, who was a huge sensation in the World Cup,
right,
but did not do a lot before that. Yeah. And is he that good?
Will
Still
he be able to earn it back for the club? That
is two very good questions. One, the clubs are paying a lot of money because where do they get the money back from? Merchandise. Right. James Rodriguez
if he sells enough shirts.
That's the reason Real Madrid brought David Beckham 10 years ago. He was he was a good player, not that good, but he's a sensation far beyond the football world. When you bring in a player like David Beckham, you immediately get the money back in revenues. It's very fast. James Rodriguez, not as popular perhaps as David Beckham, but he sells. T-shirts are selling. Money is coming in. I'm not so sure. The question is, where will he fit on the professional side? This team already has players like Gareth Bale, like Cristiano Ronaldo, like Karim Benzema. Where will James Rodriguez fit in? But hey, you know what? They want to spend 80 million euros. That's fine. Same question for Barcelona. They paid 81 million for Suarez. There is Neymar. There is Messi. Yep. Suarez will not even play until October because he beat that player in the World Cup. So a lot of questions to be asked, and we'll see.
And at the end of the day, it is about soccer. It is about scoring goals. They'll have to earn a title or two to stay on top.
Absolutely. For a team like Barcelona, for a team like Real Madrid, if they do not win titles, that is a failure. Barcelona has not won any title last season, and the coach, the manager, was sacked. He went away because that is a failure. When you spend so much money and create so much buzz around you, you have to win something, or else it's not worth it. Right. Absolutely.
All right, let's keep moving from the world of soccer to
tennis.
Smaller ball.
U.S. Open, smaller ball. At least on the Grand Slam, on the U.S. Open, almost as popular, I would say, creating huge interest. Roger Federer. So many people, including myself, have said, your time is up, maybe you should leave. Roger Federer answers again and again on the place where he should answer, on the court. He's now in the quarterfinal.
Unbelievable athlete.
He's 33 at the world of tennis. That is old. I mean, the sensations in this world are 23, 24, 25 years old. Roger Federer at the age of 33, he's now in the quarterfinal of the US Open after winning the Cincinnati Open, after coming to the final in the Toronto Open, in the North American hardcourt season a warm-up tournament. He looks very good. And again, other quarterfinals which may be interesting. One very interesting is Andy Murray against Novak Djokovic. That was the final in 2012. Everyone thinks Djokovic is the favorite. Well, Murray won that final in 2012. Murray beat Djokovic in the final of Wimbledon in 2013. Don't count out the Scotsman just yet. And the really interesting tournament in the US Open is the women's tournament. 8 of the 10 top seeds are already out before the quarterfinal. Who's in? Number 1, Serena Williams. Number 10, Caroline Wozniacki, who's already in the semifinal. All the other 8 of the top 10 are already out. Very interesting women's tournament.
Very interesting indeed. And we will follow the Sports Magazine today at 7:40.
7:40 Jerusalem time, 6:40 Central European time. Watch us.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Moving on now, we're joined in the studio by the Tube's chief editor, Yaron Tenbrink. A pleasure to have you here.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm okay.
All right. Have you recovered from the sensation of the leaked photos?
No,
Because it's
no.
all the internet's fault.
That's gonna take a long time. I mean, the discussion.
I still haven't stumbled upon your picture, but I'm waiting.
It's
I'm
out
waiting.
there. It's out there.
Okay.
You better believe it. But no, this discussion is gonna go on and on now because it's probably the biggest celebrity leak ever, and it's quite horrible. I mean, it raises so many questions, and the debate is now splitting in so many directions.
Mm-hmm.
There is, of course, the feminist debate, which asks a single question: how come we don't see any men? Any celebrity men?
Valid question.
That's a good question. And the thing is, I don't think it's a coincidence that the photos that took the most attention were the ones by Jennifer Lawrence, because she's very well known for not taking her clothes off ever in her movies, also in her publicity shots, and I think she was kind of punished for it. I think. This
think it was intentional in a way?
Yeah. I think, that's the reason it draws the most attention, and she's
also,
being.
I think, the biggest star.
She's being kind of punished. I mean, this is a sex offense. This is sexual harassment on a global scale.
That is part of the debate that's been going on.
Yeah, and I mean, the most terrible thing is that people are blaming the celebs. They should have kept their passwords better. They should have had better passwords. They should have not uploaded their videos and photos to the cloud.
Well, I don't think that anyone's claiming that they're responsible for
actually,
this. But
yesterday,
the only way to prevent such an occurrence.
Yesterday at the Tube, we had Liron Shamam, Channel 2's digital culture reporter, and she just said it right out. She said people should know that when they take their photos, with their smartphones, the photos are no longer theirs, and that has some truth in it because there is this iCloud thing for iPhones,
right,
and it keeps nagging you back up, and you go like, oh, okay, back up, and from that moment, every single photo you take goes to the cloud, and when you erase that photo,
it stays on the cloud.
It stays in the cloud. So that seems to have been the case with
Jennifer apparently
Lawrence.
That cloud is not as secure as one would hope.
Apple says it wasn't breached. They investigated, but I mean, even if the cloud itself wasn't breached, it seems that it's very easy to break into specific accounts in the cloud. So, I mean, Apple should really take some steps and make people aware to the fact that the photos that they upload to the cloud are not really private. That's the thing.
Yeah, not a simple question. We're not going to resolve it here.
Definitely not, and we're going to keep talking about it at the Tube probably next week as well.
Yeah.
But the next topic is not less creepy at all.
Okay.
There is this new application for Google Glass.
Yeah.
What they call glassware.
Okay.
And it's called Shore. It was made by researchers in Germany, the Fraunhofer Institute.
Sounds very legit.
It actually detects people's emotion. You wear the glasses, and the people talking to you, it actually analyzes and dissects their emotions.
So it's like real life emoticons.
Yeah. It's even more than that because if you're talking to two people, it will analyze emotions of both, and if you say something and they react like nervously, you will know that immediately, and that just opens so many possibilities. It's like something.
Those are skills though that we're supposed to have already. I mean, I'm supposed to be able. That's what kids learn when they view people. I'm supposed to see if I'm boring you or if I'm making you laugh or if you're feeling agitated.
Well, researchers say that in this technological age, we're actually losing this ability.
Exactly.
Many of us just can't do it anymore. Especially young adults are having trouble with that because they're with their faces in their smartphones the whole day. But it could have some valid uses. There are people who have real medical trouble detecting emotions on the spectrum, as they call it, and that could actually really help them. It could be fun too, but you know, it's kind of creepy. It's like something out of Terminator.
Yeah, it is a little bit. Like everything, like iCloud, you know, it could be used for good or for bad.
Exactly. But you know, following the theme that nothing on the internet is ever lost, we showed a couple of days ago an amazing video of Mark Zuckerberg, 2005. You know, that was almost 10 years ago. He was 21 at the time. And in the video, he talks about this new startup that he has called the Facebook. Yeah, and it's hilarious. The irony there is so sharp. He says that they ask him, okay, they're celebrating 3 million users, a very intimate kind of social network. And they ask them, what next? And he's sitting there with his shorts, barefoot, drinking beer from a plastic cup. And he says, you know, everybody wants to be the biggest. Everybody wants to rule the world. We don't necessarily have a next step. This is good enough, you know. And that's like 10 years ago, a billion users less.
Let's.
Little intro, and then we'll kind of go into the interview.
Should I put the beer down?
No, actually, I'm going to mention the beer. Hard at work. I'm here in Palo Alto, California, chilling with Mark Zuckerberg of thefacebook.com. For the uninitiated or those without a computer, tell us, you know, simply what Facebook is and what it does.
So, I think Facebook is an online directory for colleges, and it's kind of interactive. So, if I want to look you up or get information about you, I just go to the Facebook and type in your name, and it brings me up, like, hopefully all the information I'd care to know about you, or like a good amount of the information I'd want to know.
He's done well for himself since then.
Yeah, it's a directory for colleges, you know. It's amazing that so much has happened since.
Yeah. Well, he got us online. Thank you, Yaron. Thank you, Jonathan. Thank you at home for joining us as well. That's it for us for this morning. Visit us on the web, i24news.tv. You can also find us on Facebook, of course. Don't forget, join us again tomorrow to start your day every day.